For those of you who know what this is, you know. But if you don't know what this is, let me put it to you like this. Have you ever bitten into a cloud, but then inside that cloud was actually tender, succulent meat? Yeah, well, there you go. Today we're making bao. Yes, the same kind that are in the movie Bao, blah, 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 the Pixar short, yeah. It's a yeast-risen dough that is then steamed, but prior to being steamed, it's stuffed with delicious meat. And the meat that we're gonna be using is the Chinese barbecue pork that we made in the last videos. This has been a huge request. I have seen this multiple times, all on the subreddit, on my Instagram DMs, which by the way, if you don't follow me on there, the links are in the description. Be sure to go click them. My ears are ringing right now. So with all that said, let's do this, shall we?
So as with any yeast dough, you gotta prime your yeast first. Do that by mixing 2 teaspoons or 6 grams of instant yeast into 1 cup or 236 milliliters of lukewarm water that's around 98 degrees Fahrenheit or 36 degrees Celsius. Then just mix that together and let that sit for 10 minutes.
What?
Now while your yeast is having a little party, mix together 2.5 cups or 381 grams of bread flour, half a cup or 78 grams of cornstarch, 5 tablespoons or 70 grams of granulated sugar. I know this seems like a lot of sugar, but it's actually a pretty common amount and you need that in order to keep those buns soft and thick, you know what I'm saying? And 2 teaspoons or 12 grams of fine sea salt. Give that some whiskey business until everything's nice and incorporated. Oh, and that was all mixed in a stand mixing bowl, by the way, if that wasn't evident. Attach it to your stand mixer with the dough hook attachment. Start stirring that bad boy at a low speed and slowly mix in your yeasty watery boy. Make sure to add it gradually and not just toss the whole flippin' thing in there. You know, gotta give your mixer time to mix it. Keep mixing on a low speed until a shaggy dough forms. If your dough seems too dry or it's just not coming together, then you can keep adding water about a tablespoon at a time just until it comes together. Be careful not to add too much. Once your dough forms, up the speed to medium-low and let it mix for about 2 minutes or until it starts to become a little bit smooth. Then 1 tablespoon at a time, you're gonna add 2 tablespoons or 28 grams of softened unsalted butter, or you can use softened pork fat if you have any, which would obviously taste a whole lot better. Then just let that mix. You're gonna have to scrape down the sides a little bit to make sure that that butter gets incorporated. It might break the dough up a little bit. Just let it keep mixing until everything comes together. Once you've got a nice cohesive dough, let that mix on medium-low speed for 8 to 10 minutes or until completely and totally smooth and extensible. Now plop that out of your bowl. It should be nice and smooth and shouldn't be too tacky. If it needs additional kneading, you can knead it by hand, but it should. Then just gently shape that into a ball by sort of dragging around in circles, keeping in contact with the bench so you get a nice little sphere. Grease the inside of your stand mixer bowl and then plop the dough back in there and then cover it with a damp towel and let it rise for about 1.5 hours or until about 2.5 times its original size. And that should be at room temperature, by the way. All right, so we're making barbecue pork buns. We need to make the filling, but first you're going to need barbecue pork, aka char siu. Like I said, I made my own and I have a recipe for it. The link will be in the description. But if you don't want to do that, you can also pick this up at a local Asian market. And then you're just going to chop that up into small pieces until you get about 2 cups or 320 grams of chopped char siu. Then you're going to heat 2 tablespoons or 30 milliliters of cooking oil over medium heat. Once hot, you're going to add 2 finely diced shallots. Saute that until they become translucent and soft. Then add 2 teaspoons or 8 grams of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons or 30 mils of oyster sauce, and 1.5 tablespoons or 22 mils of dark soy sauce. Sometimes I like to add a couple tablespoons of spicy bean sauce. It's not traditional, but I like it and it's totally optional. Stir that together, and then as soon as it starts to simmer, immediately add half a cup or 118 milliliters of water, mix that together, and then add 2 tablespoons or 19 grams of all-purpose flour, and then just start whisking and keep whisking it over that heat until it gets super duper nice and thick with 3 C's. Then remove that from the heat and add your 2 cups or 328 grams of chopped char siu. Make sure that you chop this stuff pretty small because it needs to be a filling. Also, I didn't do it in this round of bao buns, but I've actually found that this is much better if you sear the char siu first after you chop it. Just like sear it in a pan, get it nice and crispy before you add it. And this is what your finished filling should look like. This is the char siu that was seared, and you can see how deep and rich that is. Almost like a demi-glace kind of richness. So yeah, definitely sear it. That is the goat. Then just let that bad boy cool down during the rest of the duration of your rise on your dough. And there she is, dummy thick and all. So once your dough's all plump, risen, and smooth, you're then just gonna punch the crap out of it and beat all that air out. Then turn your dough out onto a lightly floured work surface and then shape it into a long log, about 18 inches long. Sort of roll it out. Make sure that it's nice and even, by the way. You don't want like, big lumpy log. You want a nice smooth long log. Then cut the dough into about 12 to 14 pieces. The more pieces you do, the smaller the bao. Just think about it like that. Okay, so we've got our little guys ready to go. Now comes the treacherous path of shaping bao. So when you roll, you're actually gonna roll over the cut side just so that so that these stay nice and circular. But anyway, you're gonna get these nice and gently floured, both the work surface and the dough. You're gonna sort of roll an eighth turn, roll an eighth turn, roll an eighth turn along the edges, keeping sort of the center intact. You wanna have like a little bubble in the center. That way it's thicker in the center and thinner on the edges, and you're gonna keep doing that until you get a nice round circle. It's about 4.5 to 5 inches in diameter. It should look a little something like this. You can see that little raised up sort of nipple in the center. That's what you want. That's where the meat's gonna go. It'll help provide some structure as it rises in the steamer. All right, so now you're gonna add your barbecue pork filling. You're gonna wanna add quite a bit more than you would think. You wanna add enough so that there's just about a 1/2 inch border around the whole bao. Like that. Now there's more than one way to shape bao. For some reason I chose the hardest way to shape them, but I'm not gonna lie, I definitely struggled a little bit to get these the shape that I wanted. I think this is just something that takes some mad practice, but basically you're going to pleat the edges starting from one end and then twist the bao in a circle in the other. So you're pleating with one hand and then you're holding it with other, keeping the filling down with your thumb, sort of constantly stuffing it back underneath itself and folding that pleated side back over. I'm using my thumb to press it back down into the bao as I pleat the other side, press back down, rotate, pleat, press back down, rotate, pleat, and it's just kind of that motion, and just keep doing that until you get it. Once you begin to reach the end like that, then just pinch the edge shut and then twist the top to keep that intact. Any parts of the pleats that are not sticking, make sure to stick them back on, and then repeat that with all of your bao. So you're gonna cut 3.5 inch squares of parchment paper. You're gonna need about 14 of them, and just have those set to the side because that's what you're gonna need to keep the bao from sticking to the steamer basket. Get a pot that a bamboo steamer basket fits over and fill it with 2.5 inches of water and bring it to a boil. Gently place a finished bao on top of a piece of parchment paper and place it in your steamer basket. My steamer basket could fit about 4 of them at a time, so you're probably gonna have to do these in batches. Then daintily place a lid on your steamer basket. Place your steamer basket on top of your pot of boiling water. Make sure that the water is obviously not touching the steamer basket, and steam these little plump boys for 12 minutes. Do not remove the lid while they're steaming. Leave the lid on. If you take the lid off while they're steaming, they're gonna fall flat. If you want them to be plump and thick, leave that lid on and let them do their thing. Just make sure that you give them enough space so that they don't run into each other while they're rising. Sort of like they said at prom, leave enough spice for Jesus. After that 12 minutes is up, then the transformation is complete. You have thick, juicy bao buns. Nothing left to do but eat and enjoy their insane, fluffy, rich goodness.
Nothing in the whole wide world as soft and delicate as you. Nothing. Look at that. This is so unbelievably soft. Oh my God, I wish you understood.
But do you want to know what else is unbelievably soft? B-roll.
Alright guys, and that is it. So we made our very own bao. Yes, it's so light and airy and soft, and the inside's so rich and decadent and succulent and fatty and sweet and salty and umami and the voting period for Saveur Magazine Best Food Video for me is now officially closed. We cannot vote anymore, so now we will patiently await the results. I am happy no matter what, because I really am mostly just grateful to have you guys, and that's that. That's the end of that. Very excited to see what happens and what they say. In the meantime, merch, I know this has been a really sort of just creeping train that's supposed to have, I don't know how many wheels a train has, but let's say 30 wheels, 60 wheels. And this train's only got like 5. I've got the wheels on for the most part. Now we just gotta get the, I don't know where this metaphor is going. What I'm trying to say is merch is coming very soon. It's really just been a humongous problem with getting distribution to do an apron. If I was just doing shirts, this would already be up by now. But yeah, that's it. That's actually it for the update today. So with all that said, If you enjoyed this, oh wait, one more thing actually. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and all that jazz.
Buzz, that was in the description.
But with all that said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.